we report to general director and the board of directors, and sometimes directly to the rector. And we collaborate with the master plan team and the special project offices that are taking care of the running and of the facilities of the campus. Of course, I can also spend a word to say that we are engaged with a lot of associations, Piedmont University, regional and city council, public and private companies. And from 2 years since now, we are also coordinating the National Network for Sustainable University, that is the RUS, so the analog of the Portuguese network. So I can show off saying that we are doing all this stuff, but in reality, for instance, nor the master plan teams really care about what we have to say regarding the sustainability of the campus, neither the general director or the rector. I mean, I don't see a leadership that really cares about the sustainable transition. So if in the general director board, somebody else proposed to spend 2 million euro for a festival of technology, being as a Politecnico, the general director, the board of director devote this money to that project, of course, diminishing the budget for us. So it's a war basically every day. This is, for instance, another chart that we composed to show how the SDG were matching with our 5 fields. Of course, we spend a lot of energy in goal 11 and 12, sustainable cities and sustainable production and consumption. But I have to say that also this kind of mapping has been done just to show there was some connection. It was an ex post analysis and not an ex ante, let's say. And so I doubt that these things helps in decision making after this data collection. Now I will show you a bit of the action we did per each field, but then feel free to ask, because I won't go into detail, but just to give you a panoramic view on the kind of actions that we pursue. For instance, we increased the self-production of electricity during the last year, but I have to say that our PV production is only the 4% of the total of the consumption of Politecnico. Then, of course, the 96% of the electricity is purchased with a certificate of renewable energy sources, but this doesn't allow you to spend this energy as it is free, of course. And for instance, also the thermal energy, the 84% of the thermal energy we consume is deriving from high efficiency district heating. Yet is still a lot of thermal energy. For instance, this year I asked to the energy manager of the Politecnico to display the data about the consumption during the pandemic, because it would have been interesting to compare a no-use scenario with a normal one, but they didn't display any data because. Strangely enough, even when the classrooms were empty and the offices were empty, the thermal energy was delivered to the building. So I happened to go from time to time just to see if there was somebody around my office. And my office is in a 17th century castle, so it's those buildings with very high ceiling and large walls, and it was as warm as a sauna every day of the winter or the summer. So I personally go there and switch off the lights or the thermal heaters, but there is also always something that is planning for this building to stay warm. So those are the things that nobody will tell you, because are uncomfortable truths that I'm honestly, let's say, tired to ask for and to raise awareness for, because it seems sometimes that it's enough to report some data and then forget about the rest. And so, as I told you in the beginning, this presentation is very critical on those sustainability reporting per se measures. It's okay to measure, but only if then you use this data to take some decision to improve your situation and not to just stay in a higher position in a ranking. But then there is also the mobility and transport, for instance, and this is another peculiar case of a long data collection in which we asked both students and staff their means to come to the Politecnico, either by public transport or by car or by foot or by bicycle. We spent a lot of energy and students' time to collect this data, but then nobody did anything after this photography of the status quo. For instance, I proposed that this 40% by car could be reduced, asking and letting the parking permit only to the people that were living very far from the city center. So in this case, we would have freed a lot of parking area inside the courtyard of the castle that now is occupied by cars of professor, but maybe in a sustainable campus will be occupied by students' table or trees. That is to say that it's very hard to change the status quo even after you collect data to show evidence that a change would be better for the environment, for the quality of life of the students, and so forth. Because then professor didn't want to renounce to the privilege of parking nearby, a 2 minutes walk from the office. So it's always a question of mindset, I guess. And so far, the Green Team is not caring about this because they say that the mindset shift is something related to teaching or to third mission, maybe. And to me, is unconceivable. That is why I left the coordination of the Green Team 3 years ago, because I was fighting with the main coordinator, let's say. But yeah, there are still margins of improvement. For instance, there are students' teams that are active now in some project related to energy consumption or user behavior and so forth. And we have done many activities above all related to the national or international day of mobility, of waste, of energy, and so forth. Then for food, water, and waste, we are going to ask, for instance, to the canteen to do one vegetarian day a week to reduce the consumption of meat, at least 1 day per week. We're gonna ask to eliminate the meat from the menu. And we are trying to ask to the city council to provide some sites of the Politecnico with a separate waste collector, because so far there are neighborhoods that are still not reached by this service from the city council. And maybe this is one of the advantages of being a green team. So you are the voice of 37,000 people that ask something to the city council. Last but not least, there is the communication of those actions. Of course, when I founded this green team 5 years ago, the first thing I did was open an Instagram and Facebook and Twitter account that, of course, is registering an increase of social media presence. But the thing is, we don't have a dedicated person so far, and this is a job actually. So people have to be aware of the strategies to be present and to communicate above all to students in their language. Cross-cutting activities has been, for instance, this Fantomatic water bottle that we distributed to all the students, the staff, and the professor. And of course, they are engineers and they love monitoring the data. And you see there is a lot of people that is still ongoing using water fountains and dispenser to fill the bottle. Yet there have been action that for instance, I strongly supported, but they didn't succeed. For instance, try to eliminate the plastic bottle from the vending machine. So giving students the opportunity to use a canteen, a water bottle, but not only the opportunity, almost forced to choose that option, because in the vending machine they wouldn't have found the plastic one. But because of contracts and binding agreement with this vending machine that is a sort of Italian mafia, you can't say no to those vending machine seller. Plastic bottles are still there, and so this cure could have been even higher. This is to tell you about the darker shades of green. Then we had a lot of exercises related to ecological footprint, calculating in each category of energy, water, mobility, energy, waste, and food, what was the land occupied by the Politecnico di Torino campus. But again, this action just resulted in a paper by me and 2 other poor students, and nobody took action after our reporting of this hard data. Then we had the mapping of the Politecnico di Torino SDGs activities, both on education and research. And here again, there is a darker shade in which I can tell you that the algorithm that was mapping this SDG was totally unreliable, but they published this data in any case. Then we did a nice survey about the sustainability perception and the SDG importance perception, both by the community of students and staff and professor. And this is, for instance, something interesting for a materiality matrix for a sustainability report, but also to direct the choice of decision maker regarding which SDG has to be improved, because sometimes students really care about something that the Politecnico doesn't, as for SDG 1, for instance, as you see. We are also part of a number of network, ISN or ASVIS or national and international, SDSN. But again, since there's no devoted budget for research on that, it's up to everyone to, being affiliated with some of these networks and present some research paper autonomously. So not under the umbrella of the Green Team that I guess loses the opportunity to be a guide for the researcher interested in sustainability science. Again, we showed how good are we in climbing the sustainability ranking in the world, both for Green Metrics or the Times Higher Education Impact Ranking. But I guess we are confusing output with impact. So we can produce a lot of output, but maybe impacts are something else. I will conclude with a few remarks on the result in the research of those considerations that I made about the darker side of the green. And it was about the less of some metrics if they are not supported by reliable data, and then good decision after. About the triggering of UN sustainability goals with regenerative education. So the good opportunity we have to shift towards a more holistic and natural system design pattern about regenerative sustainability. And here is the work I'm doing with Antje Diesertef from Chance as well. Then the education for sustainability pattern that is like a match that a green team should play along not only the singular campus, but on a national structural level of systemic change, let's say. So instead of thinking about the little action you can do to improve the consumption of water, that is absolutely useful, we can learn from others how to improve systemically the educational way of teaching sustainability, not only with the green pill we give to students from time to time, but shifting the mindset. These were also some solutions that were translated in a spatial planning along some layers of the new campus that were proposed by Politecnico. But then, as I told you, when there was the premiere of the new campus, we saw that nobody listened to our suggestion to increase the livability of the campus itself. I will conclude. I hope I'm on time, Anna. If I have one more minute with what Plutarch was saying about the mind. That is not like filling a jar, but only kindling like wood. So if we don't try to spark the mind, not only of the students, but I guess of leaders and decision makers toward a systemic transformation, I guess the green team remain too isolated to produce a real change. So that's it. Obrigada.
Thank you very much. It was a very interesting presentation, and the time it's okay. Now, the next one is Sustainability at Nova, from João and Joana. Okay, the floor is yours.
Hi, so I will be sharing the presentation, but João will start with the presentation. So can you see?
Yes. So thank you very much for being present. Welcome. It's a pleasure to talk today. Thank you, Joana, for the invitation. As Joana said, we will be sharing the presentation. Hopefully we can manage to switch the different slides. And maybe I could also start by thanking Giulia for the insightful presentation. It was very nice to see all those details. I think this is a journey, and we are starting our journey, and so we've built a quite different presentation. Hopefully it will also be useful from a broader perspective than yours, but yours was very, very useful for the upcoming months we have ahead of us. So thank you for that. So sustainability at Nova. Maybe I could start by mentioning the fact that we've built this brand Nova for the globe to back up our communication around sustainability. We have this international approach to sustainability. We want to be part of the dialogue across borders, different borders, and so we value the idea of sharing all this information not only with our internal counterparties, but of course with our international ones. Joana, please, next slide. Well, I think from a broader perspective, this is a platform to enhance societal impact at Nova and facilitate the organizational transformation towards sustainability best practices. And we have the SDGs as a main priority. And if you go through our website, you'll be able to see this. I have other slides that will share this idea. Joana, please, next slide. Well, the mission and the vision, I think it's pretty obvious. We want to promote interdisciplinary collaboration across different academic units. We have 9 academic units, different areas of expertise. And one of the things that I believe will help sustainability in the future is the idea of fostering different interdisciplinary collaborations among our investigators, our researchers. To be honest, research, and I think that's the next slide. Joana, please. Well, it's not the next slide, sorry for this. But anyway, I was about to say that, don't worry, I was about to say that research plays a central role in our idea of working with sustainability at Nova, but I'll just give you more details later. Maybe I'll start with our organizational chart that will enlighten what I've just said about the importance of research at Nova regarding sustainability. So maybe it's interesting to see that we have 2 different councils, one of academics that gather to try to foster interdisciplinary collaborations among them, maybe to enhance the power of their research, or maybe to address specific issues we identify that could be useful, not only for Portugal, Europe, and maybe the developing countries we work with, mainly in Africa, or also some communities in Brazil. We have another council, the Sustainability Council, the council I'm happy to lead. Joana is part of this council, and in this council we have all these academic units represented as well by practitioners, mainly practitioners, but some of them, they are also researchers. And I think this is good to see how we can actually collaborate in between research, and practice. I think this is what I wanted to share about the chart, the organizational chart. Maybe the next slide will will give us a little more detail about how the activity is developed. We have 4 pillars of activity. The 3 main pillars that address sustainability are, of course, part of our mission, our 3 missions: research, education, and community engagement. They all contribute towards organizational sustainability, and we try to influence. And I think Giulia was really bright when mentioning the idea of this is a challenge, about the challenging process we have in hand. We try to influence research, we try to influence education, we try to influence, I think there's a mistake there, it's not community engagement. I wanted to mention the value creation and impact as part of one of our missions. And we try to influence them. Of course, we're not able to do that or to lead the whole process, because part of these areas, they are not led by people like us, by those who try to work towards the organizational transformation. And it's interesting to see when managing sustainability that we can guide our action, having in mind not only the impact we have, and I think the SDGs are a very good guide for us to define the strategy and our activities, and we can somehow measure our impact or the effect of our activities through the rankings. Although the rankings, as Giulia said very well, they are very good maybe as an excuse to start some of our internal processes, but they are not everything. So maybe having just the rankings in mind will not lead us in the best way we could reach if we had an holistic version or idea about sustainability. All these different areas, Joana, please, next slide, have a concrete plan. As I said before, research is fully anchored in a council working towards sustainability and fostering interdisciplinary collaborations among our different areas of expertise. Next slide, please. Education, again, an idea of trying to influence our study cycles, our curriculums. Some of our schools have already started the process of integrating SDGs in the syllabus, for example, and this is a very nice example how we can work towards sustainability through education. We are also trying to build some of our courses in a way that they are reachable or they can be attended by people from different schools. And this is one of our ways to foster interdisciplinarity among students as well. Next slide, please, Joana. And finally, the idea of value creation, the idea of fostering, for example, entrepreneurial activities among our students, trying to influence how impactful they are. We try to develop lots of different activities regarding entrepreneurship, and for many different programs, we have social and environmental entrepreneurship in mind. This is how we try to influence the ideas, the structuring of our students and academics, of course. Finally, the next slide, Joana, please. Finally, the organizational sustainability. I think we've divided our activity across 4 different dimensions. So governance, society, environment, and communication. Each of them has its own technicalities, I would say. Sometimes when we talk about sustainability, we miss the idea of society. We are mainly focusing green these days, and sometimes we miss the idea of how social impact is important for sustainability. And we try to have an holistic view around the topic, and maybe try again to influence, and I use the word influence on purpose, because I believe we can try to influence, but we are not able to manage all the things around social impact. Social impact is, for example, not managed by the sustainability officer from a governance perspective. So I can try to influence the activities around, for example, volunteer management, but I cannot actually do or decide the future of volunteering at Nova. This is just one example. We also show up in the rankings. These are the SDGs we've chosen last year for the impact rankings of Times Higher Education. Again, a guideline for self-evaluation, but it's not our main priority. Next slide, please, Joana. The website is totally focused around SDGs. I think this is something we are proud of. If you go to our website, you can see our contribution for each SDG, and it's quite interesting to see, and it's a very nice exercise for us to start communicating our sustainability practices. Next slide, Joana, please. Also interesting to see from a broader perspective the idea of strategy for sustainability. And I think we've started over the last year, 2020, and now and this year, we are starting to build our strategy for sustainability from a top-down perspective, and the sustainability policy we are almost finishing to develop has this idea of building from a top-down perspective around sustainability issues. So we are finishing our sustainability policy. We believe each school will define its individual journey towards implementation. So the sustainability policy from the university perspective is a global strategic guide, but each school has its autonomy, defining their own journey towards implementation. And finally, we are also starting our journey towards impact reporting, and this is a middle way towards sustainability reporting. Some of our schools, for example, FCT, Joana represents, or SBE, the School of Business and Economics, also have their own reporting initiatives. And I think it's a step-by-step process. Next slide, please, Joana. And before I think Joana is the best person to talk about this, but anyway, before we know the example of one of our schools, it's interesting to see how to talk about this project, which is a global project, but still something very specific that regards the School of Science and Technology. We've launched this project in the first part of the year. 1 month ago, we've said we want to build a new district in Almada, having the university in our campus as the main center of this new project in Almada. And this is, of course, part of this is a long-term project where we can apply sustainability in different dimensions. And I've brought this idea just to show you, and before Joana starts talking, how long-term is our task, our challenge. And thank you for this. Joana, maybe you can start talking about the specific example of one of our schools.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know, is my microphone on? Can you hear me?
Yes, Joana.
Okay, sorry, because I can see, I'm sharing the screen. Thank you so much, João, and also thank you, Giulia. It was very interesting to hear your perspective from Italy and to see how we can have the same problems and the same or else similar experiences being in different countries. I will now start to focus on my school, my organic unit, let's say, which is the Nova School of Science and Technology. So here we have the organizational charts. We have the board of directors, the dean's office. Then we have an executive vice dean and the technical support division, which has different sections. And within this division is where it's embedded the sustainable FCT Nova projects. So this is where our sustainability staff is allocated within the school, within the organization. So our sustainability path, the Sustainable Nova project has started officially in 2018. And in 2019, a sustainability position has been embedded in the organic structure, the one I just presented. Given the purpose of this webinar, I think it's important to explain, to present what's a sustainable office, what are our daily tasks, what's our main functions. So our job description, let's say, is to integrate the principles and best practices of sustainability in all of the operations, in all infrastructures, and in all activities that go within the school. We also have as a daily task to identify resources and collect the data that's necessary to prepare content to promote the sustainability strategy. We also try to continuously develop networks, promote new partnerships, and work with stakeholders to implement sustainability initiatives on campus. And also off campus, we have also had some initiatives that go offside campus. We also try to be aware of all funding sources, all projects that we can apply for in order to implement projects, initiatives that promote sustainability on campus. And also a big part of this, as Giulia actually mentioned, which is a full-time job for one person, is to communicate sustainability. It's very important because sometimes we are implementing things and no one knows about it. So to communicate sustainability and to support the community in proposing ideas, promote awareness campaigns, this is what changes behaviors. This is what awares people for the topic. In Nova School of Science and Technology, our core team, of course, we have support from other people, but the core team is composed by a service coordinator, which is the coordinator of the technical support division, a sustainability specialist, which is me, and a scientific advisor, which is the president of the Department of Environmental Sciences and Engineering. So these three people are involved in all of sustainability initiatives that take place. Then we can contact some other people according to the project in mind. So I bring here some of the activities that I think are most significant and that can better show the purpose of a sustainability office within an organization. For example, one area that is going to be on focus on Nova School of Science and Technology is the waste area. Some of these we have already implemented, some are ongoing, but we expect to implement them very briefly, which is to add much more recycling bins. We have already added more inside the buildings, and we are going to add more outside the buildings on our outside spaces. We are also going to build areas for waste storage in order to minimize the visual impact of having bins throughout the campus, and also to simplify the collection of waste within the campus, not to have the waste truck circling in what we want to be more people areas. And we also have a pilot project for promote recycling, which we are going to start in an initial phase in only 2 buildings, because our campus is composed by 27 buildings. So whenever we want to implement something, it's very difficult to go to all the campus at once. So we are going to start this pilot to see if we can actually increase recycling. And this consists in removing the black bin, I mean, the bin for landfill, for undifferentiated waste, and always place recycling bins together. So whenever a person goes to dispose of their waste, they always have the chance to dispose it correctly. Another topic is the engagement. This is a very important topic, because we can't do anything single-handedly. We have created from the beginning a task force. This task force is constituted by one representative from all sectors of the school. So we have one representative from all departments, all research centers, from the students, and from the services. Of course, this is a big group. We don't get together all at once. The purpose of this task force is to create smaller groups that can try to work on different areas and thematic areas. And like this, we have support from departments, services, research centers. A big part of the public that we try to engage is the students. We already have several ways to involve students. One of them was we took a discipline from the Masters in Environmental Engineering, and we asked the students for one semester to work on one topic. So each group of students work on a different topic of the sustainability on campus. And they presented it to the university and to the dean, their work throughout the semester. Another activity that we had to engage people was this collaborative workshop. Once again, we got together with the representatives from all sectors. We had teachers, students, researchers, employees, staff. And in this collaborative workshop, we asked people to imagine what they saw as a sustainable future for our campus. And in this afternoon, we had a lot of participative exercises, and we have created a vision. So the vision of Sustainable FCT Nova was actually created by all. And lastly, we tried to have a strong pillar in communication and partnerships. For this, we have a website. This website is to promote news, to share publications. As far as publications go, we have here the one João already presented, which is a brief portrait of sustainability on Caparica campus. The blue-covered document was actually done based on the students' projects. So the document is presented with all the domains that the students studied on campus and also worked a little bit. We have done some more work in other areas that the students couldn't get access to. And also we try to always be aware and to promote new sustainability partnerships. For example, when we joined the Portuguese Network for Sustainable Campus, the Eco Schools program, the Nova for the Globe that João is a part of. And next, to bring us back to the topic of the webinar, regarding top management supports, we believe it's strictly necessary. It's really necessary not only to show that we have a sustainability person hired in our school, but this support is really needed to get things done. The ways we have found to get this support is, for example, we have involved a top management person of contact in our inner group. So we have an assistant vice dean in our Eco Schools committee. And we have, as I already mentioned, the task force with representatives from all school sectors. This is very important because it's not like you pass this job to this person, but whenever you have an idea and you can speak directly to the person that can help you, this really helps to have a top management person involved. So the vice dean that we have in our Eco Schools committee has been really helpful to move initiatives along. Also, as I already mentioned, it's very important to involve students in all initiatives and projects we implemented on campus, not only to involve them in initiatives that we promote, but also to hear their ideas, because a lot of the things we've been implementing has been proposed by students. Another way to involve top management is to create a sustainability policy with clear goals and commitments. This is not as easy as it appears, but it's very important because when you try to implement initiatives, ambitious initiatives, you can always refer to, oh, remember we have signed this, we have the sustainability policy. You know, it's not just a paper. We have to work towards these goals, towards these commitments that we assumed on our policy. And also, as we've been referring, it's very important to get a budget allocated to sustainability. It's not like you can't get things done without a budget, but it's really helpful because a lot of the things with impact need a budget. And Giulia already mentioned that when you have a school to manage, I believe that some things are prioritized over sustainability initiatives. So to have a budget allocated, it's very, very important. And actually, I'm saying it's important, but it's not the case in our school. In Nova School of Science and Technology, we don't have a budget allocated to sustainability, but I believe it would be important and it would facilitate a lot of initiatives. And here we bring together some questions for us to reflect together. I would like to bring João back to the presentation, and
yes.
We can reflect together, and also with the audience if you want to contribute.
Yes, we've kind of anticipated some of the questions. Some of them they were already mentioned. We started by reflecting about the need for such an office. I think we've said that before. We believe it's really important, taking into consideration some of the international treaties we've signed, right? So, for example, Portugal has its road to carbon neutrality by 2050, and we need to take some actions now in order to meet this goal. And so this is one of the reasons for such an office to be really important, and also because, from my perspective, and Joana, please tell me if you think it in a different way. Well, students are becoming more and more aware in their choices, how sustainable is the university they choose, the type of things they study, and so I believe this is part of the questions. We've reflected upon the rankings before. Again, the motivation for us to start this journey might be the rankings, but unless we take concrete strategic decisions and options, they'll just be greenwashing, as Giulia was saying. Joana, do you want to add anything to what I've just said?
No, I think you really explained it, and I think we opened very well with Giulia talking about this, because the rankings, I believe it's good to appear on rankings because it motivates us. We can compare ourselves with other schools, but sometimes we have to be aware, like the first image that Giulia showed, like, are you really that sustainable, or are you just promoting or just showing off? So sometimes you have to be aware. I'm not saying it's bad to be on rankings. I think it's good. It motivates us, but it shouldn't be our main focus.
Yes. We also reflected upon commitment. The idea of having hired staff leads us to better management, of course, but sometimes we need to rely on students. For example, we've been working with students. Some of our schools, for example, they are actually working with students in that project called the Green Campus.
The Eco Schools.
The Eco Schools, thank you, Joana. And students are really important in the process. At Nova for the Globe, we are now planning to add students to our platform to help us not only from an operational perspective, but of course as consultants in our decisions. And I think that's also very important to consider. Regarding management and governance, we've brought the idea of accountability to the discussion. We believe, as I said before, sometimes sustainable officers, they do everything, but they're not accountable for the decision-making process, for the management. Sometimes I just have a dialogue with the person in charge of our social office, our social department. I can influence the way she manages volunteering actions, but I'm not accountable for that. On the other hand, her actions will be reflected in our impact report, in our sustainability report. So, well, I think this will take time for the sustainability officer to be fully accountable for the different projects we have in our school. But for now, I think it's just something we need to consider as accountability or indirect accountability, maybe, not direct accountability. But by the end of the day, we are a university and we exist because our schools exist. For example, the relationship between the university and the schools, I cannot influence Joana directly to do something, right, Joana? But on the other hand, we try to talk and we try to influence the strategy of each school. I wish all the schools, just like FCT Nova, would have their sustainability report. But if that's not the case, it's okay. And we need to manage it anyway. So this is why we've brought this idea of management and governance to the discussion. I don't know. I think that's pretty much what we...
Yeah. And the last is just to, whenever you promote new ideas on campus, to be, what kind of culture do you have? Do you have a conformity behavior, like that's too risky, let's not do it? Or do you have a culture within that encourages you, that promotes new ideas, that is willing to take risks? This is the topics that we had to discuss with you today.
Thank you very much for
Thank you very much.
We've matched your interest.
Yeah, hope we weren't too all over the place by being two speakers. Hope you understood everything, but we are here for questions.
Yes, thank you very much for your interesting presentations. Now I would like we have now some questions here in the chat. If anyone can put the questions in the chat. The first one is, I would like to know what are the incentives for students to join either in Polyp or at Nova to join the sustainability efforts, and is there annual budget that includes supporting the students in their activities? This question is from Antia.
Yeah, I can speak for FCT. Mm-hmm. What are the incentives? We don't have budgets. We don't have a budget allocated to sustainability, so we don't have a budget to allocate to involve students. The incentives.
So how do you make your actions or activities without a budget?
Yeah, I'm integrated in that division, the technical support division. So whenever I want to implement something,
you ask.
I ask the division, and the division itself has a budget.
Okay.
But we don't have a budget to sustainability. So my budget has to be shared with all the sections within the division.
This is a technical division?
Yeah.
Because
it's the one that takes care of the outside spaces, the energy, the maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah, the infrastructures.
Okay.
Regarding the students, we don't have, let's say, money incentives. The incentives we try to give is to facilitate. For example, now we had a group of students that came up with the idea of painting, I don't know how you call it, the drains from the water. I will say it in Portuguese, maybe Ana Carla knows, sarjetas. Sarjetas por onde a água escorre.
Okay.
So sorry. Maybe most of you will understand because I see a lot of Portuguese names. But the students came up with this idea. They wanted to paint the gutters, I think it's gutters, the gutters of water on campus. And so they came to the sustainability office and they asked, like, it's an awareness campaign. We are trying to prevent other students from throwing waste on the ground. So they would like to paint some awareness phrases, some sentences on the grounds, on the floor. And what we did was to help them. We got the consent. We said yes. And we help them defining the projects. We'll get them the paints, all the material that they need. So the incentives we have are more like help them implement their initiatives or propose. The involvement we have is with students. It's a lot on the basis of the Eco Schools program. So whenever we want to implement something, we bring this idea to them and say, we'll help you in any way we can. But we don't have like an official incentive to students that join us.
And they have their own proposals, and they
so far we don't receive proposals very often, but we have been, because it's also it wasn't.
Do you propose some activities to students or not?
Yeah. Also, for example, the project I presented with adding more recycling bins, we have contacted 2 groups of students. One group is the Environment and Sustainability group, and the other is the group of the Department of Conservation and Restoration. And we asked them to paint the structure involving the recycling bins. It's not just to be just another more recycling bin, but to have like the students' input. They are going to decorate it and paint the structure around it.
Okay.
Just a quick comment, and just for maybe it's also interesting to see how volunteering can help. How do each university account for volunteering actions? At Nova, we are trying to validate our volunteering hours and give students or either SPSs for these activities.
The University of Porto also.
Yes, and even if it's just an honorable mention in their final diploma, it's also interesting for them to have it. And this is one of the drivers of their action, at least in some schools, in some of our schools. I've had an experience at Nova SBE, and students really valued this alternative. So I don't know, maybe if this can be used as an example. Of course, we wish we had a huge budget to define clear monetary objectives, but still we can have some alternatives in the table.
Okay. Now, Giulia, do you have your...
So Politecnico has a devoted budget for students initiative, but not for sustainability ones. So they apply to the same competition, and they don't have any special green way to proceed to the funding. However, I have to say that when I was manager of the green team, for instance, at the end of each year, I devoted some budget for those theses, both master, bachelor, and PhD, that were related to sustainability issue, like was €1,000 award each. Or for instance, when I was the manager, I devoted some money for connecting the students' initiatives with national and international day. For instance, in the mobility day, I gave some money to the students who wanted to give gifts to people that were entering the campus by bike. And in the meanwhile, I was collecting the number of people who were entering. So it's doubtless. Or for instance, they came out with the proposition of a Cine Forum, because I pushed the guys of the students' green team to try to involve also professors that could be interested in watching a movie on Thursday night after finishing the work. And so we paid for, the permission to show the movie or the rent of the sort of the auditorium we have.
Yeah.
But then, as far as I'm concerned, when I left, nothing was following up. And this is sad. So it's not for showing up saying I was doing that, but it's because the lack of a leadership view on that. So it couldn't rely on good willing people try to fight the status quo and try to foster student enthusiasm, because sometimes it's not about money actually. It's just about because students can do a lot without much money. So even recognizing, for instance, one thing I did when because I teach as well now, so I try to involve local their volunteers with NGOs and so forth to give students 2 free credits if they could and have attended those activities and then relate on their environmental, social, and economic impact. So students have more or less 2 free credits each year to choose and freely among any kind of subject. And I try to link my subject with those doing service learning, basically. But again, it's up to one person. It's not a systemic action that the university provides for all the students enrolled in a sustainability project.
Okay, thank you so much. Now we have next questions. I think it's for me. It's from Claudia Monteiro. I am Claudia from Instituições. Porto, we have a green team of volunteers. Does University of Porto has a sustainability office? No, it doesn't have. Philp has a sustainability committee. If you want, you can talk to me. Okay.
Okay, it's me. Maybe I can add something. Don't you feel the need of have something more integrated from the whole university, like Nova has, for instance? Because of course we now try to implement something here in our institute, which also belongs to University of Porto. But I think at this point, University of Porto should have something to integrate all the institutions, let's say.
I think
so. I think we are a bit behind.
It is important, but for me, I don't know if it is important for me, but it is important for the University of Porto, for to embed. And
I think that could help a lot the small teams that are trying to do something.
Yeah, and the other faculties.
Yes,
because the Faculty of Engineering is the only one that has something linked to sustainability. Okay.
The only one, okay.
Okay.
Okay, at I3S we have a group of volunteers and we are trying to implement some measures, but we know that you also have this office, but we feel a bit alone, you know. We feel that there should be already an office at University of Porto. And I don't know if there is any
the organization of University of Porto is very
I know, but I guess not.
They have autonomy.
I know.
But if you want, we can talk after the webinar. Okay. You can send me an email and we talk about it.
Okay.
Now there are another questions from Rita Ferreira. What universities or schools do you think are competing with yours in sustainability rankings and in reality in Italy, Portugal, European levels? Are you measuring if students choose to study in your university or school and not in the competitor? Because if you have a strategy and action on sustainability agenda.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was writing too fast and maybe I made some mistakes. But the idea is really, João was saying that most students now have a strong sustainable mind towards sustainability issues, and they may choose their school regarding if that school is doing some efforts on its sustainability issues. My point is, are you measuring that, or is it just a feeling that you have this perception from students, or are you measuring it while you when you ask the students if they choose your school, they are choosing your school and not others because you really take care of sustainability seriously? And the other thing is, which universities are really competing with you in sustainability terms in Portugal, for example? Are there only the ones that are in rankings? Okay, we can say Este, Aveiro, whatever, IPVC, and others may be in good positions in the university metrics.
Universidade de Coimbra also.
Coimbra and etc. Yours, Philp, etc. Nova now with the Nova for Globe.
No, Philp it's not.
Nova for the Globe, I think it's not yet in the rankings, but they are doing some work. So the objective is to be in the rankings, I believe. So it's just a little bit to measure it. How can you measure it, and how does this impact in your customer choices?
Thank you, Rita. That's a very good question. Well, I would start by saying that when we communicate, we usually compare ourselves with other young European universities. So this is our main criteria. And by young, we mean less than 50 years old. And this is a good way to do that because we increase our position in the rankings. But to be honest, and I'm not fully aware of the big numbers, but I can say that the majority of our universities worldwide, they are young universities. And by comparing ourselves with them, we are comparing with the majority. Of course, if we bring those traditional universities to the equation, they've done so far better than us. And I think that could be a good way for us to distinguish ourselves. I'm not.
It depends on the ranking, yes.
Yes, we've applied over the last 3 years to the impact rankings, Nova, and when we try to see our relative position in some of the SDGs, because the impact rankings, they are presented by SDG, okay? Yeah. In some of these SDGs, we are very well positioned, taking into consideration European young universities, and this is our main focus from a communicational perspective. Regarding the second question, I think I can take this question and make a point to what Giulia has said before. I think one of the most important things regarding sustainability management is starting by a picture, a good photography, as Giulia said. And I think we are still in that process. So hopefully by the end of this year, we will have our first impact report. And with such reporting initiatives, we can establish our starting point. And this is something I wanted to add to what I've said before, and maybe relate this to the question about whether our students are fully aware of our sustainability practices before choosing. I wish I had a questionnaire at this stage to see if they've chosen Nova because of our sustainability policies. I'm not fully, well, I cannot back up my idea from with data. It's just a perception, as you well said. I don't know, I see things changing a lot. I see, for example, many German students coming to Portugal to study at Nova School of Business and Economics. I think at Nova School of Science and Technology as well these days, especially for our schools in Portugal in general, from the schools of management. They attract lots of people from Germany. And I believe they choose us, of course, because of climate, because of prices, because of many things. I don't think sustainability is really their main angle for the choice. But I can see some of them valuing what we offer when leaving. Many students, and from an academic perspective, I've only had this experience at Nova School of Business and Economics. So please, this is maybe not part of the full environment around the university, but our students are valuing more and more the options we offer in terms of what type of courses we offer, what kind of examples we give in the many different areas of expertise we are teaching. So I don't know, but I don't have data to support the idea, Rita. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. I don't know if Giulia has something to say.
I can pick on what Antje was saying in the chat. So I don't like to think about competitor universities, because we have to help each other to reach the goals. Yeah. But I understand, I mean, the narrative about those things really claim for competitor and customer, no? As
because there are rankings.
Sure, but that's why I moved away from ranking. Well, it was my field of study, so I I really did this chiasm with what I pursued so many years, and then I understood that it's really meaningless to watch just your position in the ranking. Also because João and Joana will agree with, it's a self-reporting initiative. So you can really say what you want, basically, and you cannot say what you don't want to say. So just to tell you that the University of Venice is very high in the green metrics ranking for the mobility, mobility field. And I have a friend who is mobility manager there, and I asked him, so how did you calculate in Venice the mobility, the kilometer of cycle path, because you have to report this kind of number then to those rankings. And he told me, well, no, we have a channel of water, and we consider that as cycle path. All those students doesn't use gondolas to go from the station to the university. So it's really up to you, and nobody will know that. I mean, I just asked it because I was curious, but I mean, maybe I'm the only one who read the report and asked myself this question. But just to say that it's really pointless to maybe think about competitors and how they move. And also, I think students choose university because of their proximity to surfing spot. Maybe also I would, or pastéis de nata factory. I mean, I would have chosen a university close to Bel Air, for instance. No, but I'm joking. In Italy, you choose the university because they provide you with a good job later, or the city is nice. I don't think that being green is a good selling point for university. Yet is is change or die now. If you don't change towards sustainability, now that with the pandemic you can easily attend a Harvard school from your chair, is hard to think that we cannot. I mean, we have to change in any case. So it's better to change toward the better in this sense. And students, I guess they evaluate the overall strategy, not the sustainability of the campus itself.
Well, thank you. I think we have time for one question or two maximum. I read it. In PVC, we are working with a strong budget investment in the component of health and well-being of workers, quality of work or of working conditions, sustainability from the perspective of the internal community employees. Can you share with us other initiatives related to these areas? Thank you very much. Yes, I agree. We only talked about the environmental pillar, but I think if you could do some examples of social one, it will be very nice.
I think Ana Teresa, the one asking the questions, should share with us.
Ana Teresa can speak.
Because it's very interesting to know that they have a strong budget.
I'm member of the RCS. Ana Teresa, please.
Okay, Sophia, thank you. I will speak from IPVC. Yes, what Ana Sophia was talking about is that we are working very deeply in sustainability. Sustainability is integrated, and as Sophia was saying, we are a member of this network, and it is integrated by the pro-presidency that Ana Sophia represents, and is allocated to all schools. And we are very focused not only on this part that you worked and presented today. Thank you for that sharing of knowledge. It's very relevant to us. But also we are working deeply on the internal perspective on health and well-being of all our workers, IPVC workers, and also from the quality of the working conditions as the sustainability from our own employees, our professors, our staff, the community surrounding us, with very strong initiatives towards community empowerment and territorial engagement. And also we'd like to share to other universities that we are getting funded. So when we mention budget, Actually, we have the luck to have several projects funded in this area, either internally for our employees or externally to the community and students. So we have a dedicated budget to this. And our question was related to if you are already working on the community employees, and if it's an area that you would like to develop or share with us some initiatives that we can also learn from. Thank you.
I think
my questions is more enlarged, because I want to know about the pillars, the social pillar, not only the working conditions, but gender equality plans, for instance.
Yes, we have one project that is financed by Emma, and we have gender pillars, values, and all that is integrated into the Polytechnic strategy and values. And Emma provided us a budget, a specific budget, and we are working regarding the implementation of several gender politics and practices alongside with several partners, as other project by the HEI grants also.
Okay.
So we are really deep on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Giulia, do you have something like that?
The thing is, the Polytechnic as a public institution has by law a requirement of taking care of the welfare of the students, of the staff, of the professors. So we have an office, the welfare office, devoted to that, with plenty of initiatives, I have to say. Still, it's not framed in the sustainability action, because they still think that sustainability is planting a tree or putting a PV panel. So it's still hard to explain that it's a whole bunch of action toward increasing the livability of all, including trees, of course, not only humans. But for instance, when I propose to integrate our action with those of welfare, of those of the gender commission, and or those of the budget planning, there is always this chair war, I have to say. So that nobody wants to leave the chair with the name on the crown. And so if I am the head of the welfare office, I won't give it away. And so, yeah, everybody is doing something, but at least the welfare offices are very active, as far as I'm concerned, related to, I don't know, the kindergarten for children belonging to the Politecnico staff, or yeah, there is a psychological support for students and staff, for professors. So there are things that they do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
I was just wondering, just a final remark, because we
have
are
here other questions. Okay.
Yes, Carol, just answering to Giulia, 1 second. We are having interviews with presidency and our deans and the directors. And I was thinking more of this type of initiatives, more strategic, but you answered our question. Thank you very much.
Just a quick comment, Ana Teresa, please, to your question. I think from an institutional perspective, it might be interesting to consider, for example, developing a policy for gender equality, or a more broader one regarding diversity and inclusion, and that's what we are doing now. We've already developed one for gender equality, and we are building another one that somehow includes the gender policy regarding the diversity and inclusion. That's one thing, and it takes time. We are also trying to rearrange the way we manage psychological appointments, for example, because at the school level we have a more direct approach. Okay, we have one psychologist per school, but if they want to engage in a long-term process for psychology appointments, they engage at the university level with our psychologists. So that's the way we are trying to work in terms of psychology. And when I mean psychology, although students are our main focus, we are, of course, and also for the gender policy and also for the diversity and inclusion, we are also taking into consideration faculty and staff. Okay. And finally, just a quick comment. We have a very interesting project in one of our schools called the Inclusive Community Forum, in which we address people with disabilities. So I think if we had to choose one target group for this specific question, maybe School of Business and Technology and Economics have developed this inclusive community forum. It might be interesting for everyone to have a look, because it has a systemic approach, as Giulia was mentioning. It had a systemic approach not only to the community, but to the different topics around inclusion. And maybe the highlight is how they worked towards employment of these people. Sorry, just
thank you. Thank you. The last question. How do the speakers evaluate the risk of having fluctuation in commitment to sustainability due to change in the composition of institutional government? Is this an issue, or are the present structure stable enough to ensure a smooth continuation of the present efforts and strategy? What do you think? I don't know, Giulia?
Well, the thing is, for sure, it's about politics, right? So if you have to ensure democracy, you have to be aware that maybe 1 year the rector is enlightened and a leader in sustainability, and another year no. But that's why it's important to shift the complete mindset of all the university. So if you create a specific line in the strategic plan to sustain sustainability action for students and for staff, and if you build around the rector a board of specialized people devoted to sustainability, maybe this is the way to ensure at least a sort of long term.
Yeah, I think I can agree with Giulia. Maybe the idea of having a sustainability policy will help us navigating the change in terms of actors along the years. And I'm just hoping for that. I think we don't fluctuate that much because of this idea of having policies backing our strategy.
Joana,
Anna, you've missed one question. It was really interesting, and I would relate it to something Giulia was said. It was regarding impact evaluation. It was from Elsa Alves. It was a previous question. And I think it could be really interesting. I just wanted to address this question in one short comment before we come to an end.
How do you evaluate the impact?
Yes. I think Giulia has mentioned in her presentation that we were just valuing outputs. And I completely agree with Giulia. And I think this is exactly what the rankings do as well. They are just valuing outputs. Because I'm really interested into the topic, and I see the challenge not only for universities, but for corporations in general, or even civil society organizations. I can see we have a lot to improve there. I think we should base most of our activities in an impact assessment approach, maybe identifying outcomes and impact from a medium to long-term perspective for each of them. And maybe, I don't know, maybe in 3 or 4 years' time, we will have each of the activities we present in our sustainability report reflecting not only upon the outputs, because they are pretty straightforward, they are tangible assets from a certain perspective, but maybe reflecting on indicators for medium to long-term analysis. And this is valid for everything, for research, for education. I would really like to ask to some of our alumni, for example, in a few years' time, whether they've followed a PhD, for example, in environment, because they had this really interesting course back at Nova. And I think that's when we will be starting to talk about impact assessment.
We are talking about outcomes.
Yes. Outcomes. At this stage, it's really simple.
It's not outputs.
Can I only say something to João? João, there is nice index for inclusion. If you want, then we can talk a little. It's really nice to have it, because we can evaluate the behavior. It's very nice. If you want to, we can talk then.
Let's keep in touch. Totally up to
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think now it's time to finish. It's 4 o'clock. Okay, and thank you so much to the speakers and for the interesting presentations and interventions, and for the participants. Thank you very much to all, and a good day, a good weekend.
Thank you very much, Ana Carla.
Bye.
Thank you all for your questions.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.